One very important reliability inspection is to get into the car and inspect the driveline flex discs. You want to take a real close look at these, inspect for cracking and separation, and if you see that, you want to replace them immediately. Even if they look okay like these, they may need replacing because they become stiff. But these look okay, and I shouldn't be concerned about them separating. If you lose the flex disc where you're driving at high speed, you can do considerable damage to the car. And as long as I got the exhaust system out, I pull that center cover, and we're going to take a look at that center bearing carrier and the universal joint. So I'm looking up in here, I'm looking at that rubber part that holds that center bearing. That's usually what deteriorates. You can grab a hold of the drive shaft and shake it up and down if it moves. That's not a good sign, but this one actually looks really good, so I don't have to worry about this for the time being. And with the mileage, I don't think I need to worry about the universal joint either. And moving on up to the front of the drive shaft, we'll inspect this front flex disc, and this is looking good. See, you don't see any cracking or deterioration there. Also take a good look at that rear transmission mount. That may need replacing in the future. I can put that in my notes. Moving up to the transmission and engine, I want to check for leaks. This one is really clean. Sure, you can see some wetness in a few places, but just look at that, how dry the engine and transmission are. And what I did is, a day and a half ago, I put a piece of cardboard under the engine and transmission, and look at that. Those stains are from different cars, but there are no spots of any type of fluid that are leaking out from underneath this car. The only thing I noticed was a little bit of seepage that's been coming out of this bottom radiator hose. Very, very minor, but I'm going to go ahead and do a cooling system pressure test. Just make sure there's not a leak there. If any of you have been around and worked on these cars, I know you're going to be impressed here at how dry this 380 SL is underneath. I've just finished checking over the front suspension on my 380 SL, and it looks like this front suspension is going to need probably what every other 107 needs out there, unless it's been done recently. And that is, it's going to need a new subframe bushing kit, and it's going to need a new idler arm bushing kit. Now, the idler arm is often forgotten. You know, people will replace tie rods, but this idler arm bushing in here, when it wears out, you'll get steering play, and this has got just a little bit of steering play. But I'm looking up here at these bushings. They're not too bad. Even if these bushings don't look destroyed, which you'll find in a lot of 107s, it's because of the weight of the engines. You know, the 114s and the 115s, they have the same type of bushings. They tend to not get as destroyed as often as the ones in the 107s, particularly the heavier 450 SLs. So let me show you what these look like, and then I'll explain my game plan. Here you can see the subframe, this large structure right up here. And right here you can see one of the rubber bushings, and then the other one is over here. So you have 4 points that the subframe bolts up into this unibody structure. So you can see the nut plates there and the bolts. Hopefully you won't have a rusty car, because these can be a real pain to get out. But a lot of times you'll look underneath a 107 and you'll see this rubber actually missing. You'll see big chunks out of it. You can see here on Cherry that the rubber's deteriorated, but it's still soft and it's still okay, at least for me to drive it. What I want to do is get this car out and drive it for a few weeks and kind of continue my checklist before I come back and start phase 2 of this rolling restoration. So this is not going to be something I'm going to do right away. But if you have a 107, this is something you might want to consider doing. You can't believe the difference it makes. Talk to any 107 owner who's done it. And if you're thinking about purchasing one, be sure and add this to your inspection checklist. This is what the 107 front subframe bushing kit looks like. You get 4 rubbers for those 4 corners of the key mounting points. You get new bolts, washers, nut plates, and a bag of miscellaneous plastic bushing and rubber bushings. So it's a complete kit, and it can be done without dropping the subframe out of the car, but it's a little tricky. Now, years ago, I wrote a written manual on how to do this, and when we sell our kit, it comes with written instructions on how to do this yourself. It's not a beginner job, it's more like an intermediate job. What I'm going to do in the future, and this isn't something like I said I'm going to do right away, I'm going to wait. Probably phase 2 of the rolling restoration, and I'll come in and I'll replace the subframe bushings in cherry here, because I want that original feel in the front suspension, and you're not going to get it in a 107 unless you replace these parts here. And of course, here's a close-up on that idler arm bushing kit. You'll be amazed at how much better the steering will feel when you replace this one as well. So I'll put links below this video that'll take you right to these kits on my website.